So this is my Yamaha VX Limited. I've equipped it with a sounder and these shoreline tubbies. Shoreline tubbies make this a true fishing ski. There's actually nice rail blazer holders on the tubbies. I've got one on each side. I'm drifting with the wind at the moment, so that's why I'm sideways to the swell and the wind. I'm just coming up to some reef now, so I'm hoping to see some action soon. On the back here of the pods are the two rescue bottles that you commonly see. What these are used for on this side is definitely a rescue bottle. It's full of my safety equipment, the flares, V-sheet. I have a fire extinguisher in there. I have a spare hat because you always lose hats out in the water. I have a little bit of extra water and small first aid kit if I get a hook in myself. On the other side, I'll just swing around. The other side is a live bait tank, and it's fed water through the engine, well, through the jet pushes water up through this pipe here, and you end up with fish. If you catch some bait fish, you can keep them alive for quite a while. I've got a couple of pike in there today. They're not great. I had a couple of slomies. That's what's actually out at the moment. Obviously a couple of GoPros, got to record it. Somebody says it's not real unless you've got a photo of it, so that's what I do it. I've also got on the front here, you'll notice I've got a little handlebar pack. This one I got from a company called Maverick Fish Hunter. They're in the US. Saw it on eBay. At the time it was the only one I could find. Pretty good. It's done the job for 2 years or so. Still working, the zips are still good. And in there I'll keep things like sunglasses, you know, the cameras. And also I normally have my braid scissors and line cutter, so easy to get to, and I've got it on a breakaway magnetic clip here so that I can remove it when I need it. On the tubbies you'll notice there's two, like, I guess called glove boxes. This one, things like my pliers, you know, knives, things like that can go in there quite easily. On the other side I normally keep the tackle that I'm currently using in there, little tackle box. And of course the tubbies are also equipped with storage area. Notice that I've got quite a bit of gear in there. Well, not as much as I sometimes take. I've got a couple of spare rigs, different types of fishing types that I might get up to in the day, from trolling to bottom fishing to casting. And on the other side, this side, I've got my bag, which is the ice bag. So I put a bag of ice inside, and in there with a bit of water. If I catch some fish I can keep them nice and cold. Bait of course goes in there as well if I've got some bait. The nice thing about this is that it doesn't make a big mess in your pods. You can just lift it straight out when you get back and give it a rinse out, and away she goes, and it doesn't smell like fish like I'm sure it will if you put the fish directly onto ice inside the tubby. The other thing, I'm actually here, I'm holding my sabiki rod. You might have seen it in one of my other videos, the sabiki rod. This is a sabiki lure. It's basically 5 or 6 hooks, which are very tiny razor sharp hooks. They're for catching bait fish. If I go over the top of a bait fish, that's what I'm doing at the moment. Actually, I'm just waiting to see a school come up on the sounder, a school of bait, and I try to catch some while I'm drifting past, just to give me some more live bait. The pods also have in the front of them not only those rail blazers I mentioned, but they have a rigging area where you can put your rod in there and just let it sit. I always try to tether my rods because I have a habit of losing some over the side on these things. The sabiki rod itself folds up. It actually folds into 2, and I normally stow it in the pods when I'm traveling. These hooks are pretty sharp. With a sabiki rod, the line actually retracts inside the tube, so you can actually get those hooks away and out of the risk of being hooked in your leg or into your, I mean, really the worst thing is they get into your clothes, and you then end up having to extract them with the pliers, and you either put a big hole in your sun shirts, or your rashi, or you end up having to cut the hooks off and do it later, because sometimes they're embedded so well that it's very hard to get them out. On the Jetski, being a VX model, it's a little bit different to some of the other basic models from this range of the VX. The VX is the one underneath the FX series. I have, well, with the VX Limited, it comes with pull-up cleats. The pull-up cleats allow you to, tie things to them. I use it at the dock all the time. And what I do is I stow a tow rope, well, a dock rope in my little glove box container here, and that's what I pull out when I get to the dock. The other thing I have on the VX is I put a Railblazer mount at the front, you can see. So that's great for obviously mounting a GoPro, but I use it for a little nav light that I have. I have a nav light kit from Railblazer as well, which gives me the red-green for the front of the ski, and it has a pole which I put on another Railblazer mount at the back. The law says you have to have it a metre above the white all-round light, which goes on your rear, has to be a metre higher than your red-green light. So in my case, I've probably got the Railblazer a little bit too high at the front, so I'm thinking about actually moving that. Or I could actually mount the rear light a little bit higher. In fact, I've got another Railblazer currently on one of the rescue models. So the other thing some people will probably ask me is, well, what rods do you take out on a jet ski? Well, obviously my bait rod, my Sabiki rod, can't leave home without it. Using live bait is probably the most successful way of being able to catch decent fish. The old story, big bait, big fish, and if they're alive, it's even better. So I normally carry 3 rods, just because I guess I have 2 Railblazers at the front, and I have a way of mounting more rods at the back. There's actually 4 rod holders on those rear of the pods there. So I carry 3 rods. Now what they are, I have basically a shorter overhead. That's a Talica 10. The rod is an ugly stick, 6 foot I think it is. It's got a nice soft tip, so if I'm using braid and I get a hit, it should absorb some of the impact. Talica 10s, it's not too bad. It's got a reasonable drag. I think it's 10 kilograms, something like that. The Talica is used for trolling. At the moment I've got a weighted live bait on it, so it's on the bottom at the moment. So it's great when you're fishing, a reef on the bottom as well with baits, or not with live baits. So yeah, handy all round, that sort of rig. Now this one here, it's a little bit longer rod. It sort of doubles as a casting rod or just general fishing, so I don't use this a lot at the moment. You can see I've actually got a line going out across the top of the water. That's a floating bait. I'm looking for anything coming along the surface, maybe a cobia or something like that. On this case it's a Saragossa 6000. I also have another 14,000 reel which currently is getting serviced, and that one combined with this rod is a very nice big game sort of rod for well, big game for me, larger fish. If you're casting to larger fish, or maybe things like kingfish, that's the sort of rod that you would use. It's quite a medium to heavy gauge, 7'6", good for casting. And the last rod, I'll see if I can turn around here without cranking my back. It's Veritas. I think it's 6'6". It's a 12 to 20 kilogram, I think it is. Can't see it from here. Very nice actually. I'm really happy with this one. I've teamed it up with a Quantum Smoke 5000. Well, actually I think it's a 50 it's called. Beautiful for casting at mackerel, other pelagics, very lightweight to hold. I'm running I think 20-pound braid on that one, and because it's a carbon fiber type rod, it's nice and stiff, which means that it doesn't have, it has a memory, I guess you call it. When you cast, it goes straight and it helps you cast further. Well, that's what they said to me in the shop anyway. So I'm going with that. The just for information, the braids I'm using the other on Power Pro on the Telica. I guess that's their brand, Shimano. So I've got a 40-pound braid on that one, and I've also got the what do you call it, the coloured braid, which has increments of 10 meters, so I can gauge how far I've got the line out when I'm trolling or when I'm dropping. The Saragossa, I think it's got a 20-pound on it as well, and that's not a lot of it actually. I've lost a bit of that line. I've snapped it off a few times. But it's you know, that's all you need. You have to get used to tying new leaders onto your braid and do it on the water. You know, I hope you don't get seasick, because if you're tying if you're tying lines on a jet ski, it's going up and down, as you can see today, and you could probably get quite seasick if you weren't used to this. But I've never been seasick. I've seen people in boats next to me throwing up over the side, so it's quite humorous, because you think I'd be rocking and rolling further than they would be, or more than they would be. Yeah, well, that's it. It's been a little bit quiet this morning. I'm a little bit concerned about that actually. I might have to move around and see if I can find some bait schools. There was a little bit of action earlier with the birds, and a little bit further inside. I'm currently about, I think it's about 5 or 6 kilometers offshore at the moment. But there was a little bit of action in earlier, but the birds seem to keep going out to sea, so I've sort of followed them out to the outer reef here. And I'm coming up to some good reef, so I might get ready to go. And I hope you enjoyed my little tour of my Yamaha VX Limited and how I rig it for fishing.